Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Finlay, bring it away. Thank you so much.
Hi there, my name is Dan Finlay, and I'm here to talk about reimagining self-custody. Self-custody, the way that we hold the keys and the power, the control of our digital assets, right? So MetaMask was kind of the first crypto wallet that let you connect to a blockchain that could just do anything from your browser, and so let you just take these crazy risks with computers and hopefully know what you're doing and be safe and better your life, right? And for many people, that's true. There's a lot of people whose lives have been changed for the better by this stuff, and I think we're all trying to do more of that. So yeah, I was diving into it already, right? We've come a long way. We've learned a few ways to not make a perfect wallet. Like Edison, it was a little easier for him, to be honest. It's like you just need to make something glow. You need to get a whole world full of people putting their life savings on the internet. I think a little bit harder, to be honest. But we've got a lot of brilliant people working on a lot of the problems in Web3 in a lot of ways. And so I have the privilege of presenting how a lot of that work is coming together in what has been a cohesive vision, whether or not you believe it. But I believe it is truly coming together in a way that is paying off. Like, we've made some decisions, so a little retrospective. First version was just a little browser. It was actually a browser in the browser. You got a URL bar under your URL bar. That's Kumavis, mad science extraordinaire. He really had it working. It didn't work on everything, but crazy, right? And then the second version, we had fun with this. All your accounts were called Wally because we didn't have time to let you nickname your accounts. And then we got the slide transition for the pop-ups. And then a lot of you OGs probably remember this. This was me and Aaron. We reskinned the whole thing in a Friday night. We invented Jazzicons that night. That was a wild one. And then eventually we had like our first. That's what the confirmations looked like eventually at the pinnacle of that era. Kind of the original, kind of sensible, kind of defining what Web3 is as we know it today. Most crypto wallets you use today are basically slight embellishment of that. And yeah, I know we've got simulation now, but simulation is still just a guess of what's going to happen. I would posit that basically you're still pointing at some gibberish garbage that you don't understand, and you're still getting proposed some bytes of data that you don't actually know for sure what they're going to do. And now sometimes you're doing things you definitely know what you're doing. You're doing token allowances. You're interacting with contracts that were vetted so well your wallet gave them the nod and integrated a first-class integration. And we're getting better at that too. We're providing some good first-class integrations now. But we want it to be even better. We want to make it safe and easy for the most people to get the most out of the decentralized web, to the degree that's empowering to you. We don't get to tell you what your ration is. You decide what you want out of this world, and we're going to just try to make the tools that let you do that. Last year, there were 250 million MetaMask users, so So I think that's a pretty good heuristic for Web3. It's not like all those people are daily drivers or something, but that's how many accounts became active over the course of the year. It's a big movement, and yet, it's still really early. We all know it. We can all feel it in our blood. This isn't quite there yet. What's it going to take to like actually get a benefit out of trustworthy computing? Is it just rugging each other or like getting robbed by hackers or there are uses, right? So we know the UX has not been where we want it. That's obvious. So the security, biggest heist in history, right? Just happened in our community. And so I'm not gonna, we all need to solve that, right? Use cases, I feel like people like to claim the current wave is the proof of market and maybe this is the use case. I would posit that putting your money into bonding curves and then guessing if the other person's going to pull out before you do is not the future of a sustainable economy. That's just my personal guess. So we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to tie it all together in what I'm going to claim would be pretty much the ideal wallet. I'm not claiming we are it yet, but I'm going to show you what the big picture looks like. I'm going to show you how we're filling in those. We're going to connect all those parts of the wallet. And then we're going to do some things that I think every wallet should be doing that none of them are doing yet, but we're on the verge of doing. Okay? So first, talk about UX, baby. So we're going to improve it. We're improving it in a lot of ways. Actually, I'll just nod to performance right away. We've got transactions processing 3 times faster this year. The extension's popping up 50% faster. Mobile is loading a lot faster. There was actually a load. If you were on a low bandwidth connection, it might be a lot faster. There was a thing, but we're committing to improving performance, stability, all right, and also transactions. Transactions are at the heart of doing everything, right? Transactions are basically the things you do. If you don't have transactions working smooth, none of it works, right? Okay, so you might have heard of our smart transaction system. Smart transaction, we got 2 slides for it. Little animation there. Smart transactions are addressing a few problems. The first one is MEV. Every time you submit a transaction on the public internet, there's bots. There's just a lot of ways they game you. They buy before you, sell after you is the classic one. $11 million was lost to sandwich attacks last year, and only 5 of those were to MetaMask users because we are processing transactions through our smart transaction system. So keeping users safe. MEV is a big problem in our ecosystem, and I'm very proud that we're protecting our users for it. Here's how much also failed transactions. You know, back in the day on those early screenshots, you would just hit and guess and hope, and then you'd get this failure reason, and it would actually be like a stack trace, like it was like a blob of JSON. Terrible. And you'd lose money every time. You lose money every time. Last year, 778 Ether was lost to just people trying to do something, but there was like something wrong, and it's like you're not going to find out why, right? You're going to be like, devs, do something, right? You're going to be helpless. But only 1/8 of an ETH of that was to MetaMask users, so that's awesome. Solving reliability. Okay, and then, on our swaps, so the transaction success rate in general is 9.995%, so that's like almost 3 sigmas of reliability, so we're almost competing with TradFi by like 1,000x thousands. It was just, we think a lot better than what has become the status quo in a lot of ecosystems. That's what I'll say there, versus competitors. Please, somebody do the analysis. I don't want to throw things. And we're also able to use this smart transaction system to abstract away gas. Okay, so gas is a big pain. People having to think about transaction fees in crypto. So if you use our swap system today, you can now pay in any token. In fact, it's paid out of the token that you're spending. And so you don't have to have the gas anymore. It's just included. It's like, price included. It's just kind of how most of the economy works. It hasn't been how crypto works. Actually, when people try to perform transactions in Web3, a lot of the time, I think 25% of the time, they would stop because they didn't have gas. They didn't have Ether. And then they're like, I don't have Ether. Oh, okay. And that problem was actually getting worse on L2s because now we're introducing new currencies you have to use for my app or that app or whatever. And so then people were just like, what, another? Like, I just bought this crypto and now you're telling me I have to buy another crypto to use your app? Smells like a Ponzi, I'm out, right? Letting people pay in the things that they have is natural, organic, lower friction, it's great. Okay, abstracted gas. So how are we abstracting gas? So the first way is in our swaps, we're letting you pay in other tokens. We're gonna let you do that also for other transactions. So not just our swap system, but other dApps are gonna be able to pay in arbitrary tokens. So first, so that's going to be great. We're going to be able to do that actually pre-Pectra because of our smart transaction system. And then once Pectra comes out, because of EIP 7702, we're going to be able to let you pay in any token on any chain that supports EIP 7702. So, sorry, there's going to be some technical details. Okay. A next way that we can kind of eliminate gas as like a user-facing thing, because this whole thing about transaction fees, it's really annoying to people. It makes them run away. We can also batch transactions. We can make them think about it less often. So that's a popular answer. The most classic example is the approve and swap. So if you're interacting with the DEX, you always have to submit one transaction where you set a token allowance, and we do our best to help you set that allowance responsibly. But then you have to wait for that to mine before you can then swap. It's a terrible experience. Every DEX has been begging for this forever. Look at this. We're finally going to be able to give it to them. One transaction fee in the currency of your choice to do some number of actions like approve and swap. So saving you time. Yes. If there's one thing worth applauding for, it's giving you time back as users of crypto, right? Like human time to me is the most valuable thing in this whole, we talk a lot about EVM gas golfing. I want to talk about human time gas golfing. And I think I can tie that into something later. And long term, I actually think that we can eliminate gas entirely, like not just pay in another token, but I think that we can make it so that gas is generally just included in whatever permission is being granted. dApps will say, oh, I need this much of an allowance. Well, they can always then submit transactions later, right? We're going to talk about account abstraction in a little more in just a minute. We're going to let you import multiple SRPs. I'm sorry. Yes, right. Okay, thank you. There's the Perl user. You're going to appreciate that. Sorry, I got out of sync. Okay, yeah, it's going to look like this. You're going to be able to import more seed phrases. Now, let's get real. You should not be keeping keys hot, but for those many seed phrases that you do keep hot, this is going to save you some time, and hopefully that's good. All right, then let's also talk about, profile sync. We're syncing your profiles across devices. That means the tokens you import, the networks you import, your address book. And I actually think that address book, every time you confirm a transaction on MetaMask, you can name the contract you're interacting with. And now that that's syncing across all devices, that is a powerful security tool. If you ever interact with something where you care about it, you know it's holding something you care about, anything that proposes transactions relating to that will be labeled for you on every MetaMask instance you have. Okay, so label your contracts. We don't have to be listing things. We don't have to be doing that. If you can keep track, then you can be keeping yourself safer. And eventually, I'd love to make those lists like friend subscribable, right? And you can help keep your peers safe too. All right, now we're going to talk about abstracting networks away. So networks are a big pain in the butt. So far, we've been doing it this way. MetaMask was built in a time there was one network. We kind of thought Ethereum was going to scale infinitely and it was going to be fine or whatever. We'll leave that to the protocol devs. Well, it didn't quite go that way yet, and we need to do some diligence to get to that invisible. Now we're on a roll-up centric world. We're on a many-chain world, and so managing the bridging and all that is a big pain. So first of all, we're getting rid of that switch network modal. You may have already noticed that websites are not asking you to switch networks. You can just have dApps on many networks. Way overdue. And this is an expression that under the hood, we've got support for many networks at once now, which means websites can ask for connections to many networks at once. This is using the Chain Agnostic Improvement Proposal 25. That's going to let you, if you are the kind of app, whether you're like doing trade across chains or portfolio manager, you can just say which chains you need access to, get them all with the same connection flow, which is nice, but I think we can do better. Okay, all right, now let's tie those pieces together. We've got a lot of UX improvements and we got a lot of multi-chain. So to become a truly multi-chain network, honestly, this has been one of the biggest technical and logistical user interface refactors that we've ever had to do. We really had to rebuild the whole app and the user interface and many parts of the background to ensure that we can keep track of many networks at once and make it invisible. And here's what we got. So here's a new MetaMask interface. And you can see that it's got here's a Polygon and an Avalanche and a Basecoin, and they're all on one. And I know that's that's what it should be like, right? And it's not unreasonable at all. At the top level, we've got accounts. The account can hold tokens on many networks. Totally reasonable. This is great. I just have all my stuff just the way I want. You can swap and bridge from all of them. We're gonna merge this together. It's great. It's the multi-chain experience you should have. You can log into sites. They just ask you for the permissions you need on the chain that they need them from. They don't ask you to switch chain. None of that. It's nice. It's got a pretty token page. It's got a chart. All that stuff. There you go together. It's a nice visual refresh, and it now finally gets rid of. You get rid of that network switcher. You get rid of the kind of anonymous menus. You kind of we're able to just center the account. The account is your container of the things you have, and when you zoom into the things that you have, there's the things you can do with them, right? It's just lined up. It took a while, chiropractics, to just get lined up. Feels very natural once you're in the right shape. Okay, and then we're gonna connect everything together. Oh yeah, so it's cool that we can show all your different EVM chains in one place, right? But, over at MetaMask, we've actually been working on an extensibility system, right? So we actually you can install like every blockchain on MetaMask. It's just that, for the last year, it's just that it's been, not a fully deeply integrated into the experience thing. You'd have to go to a page to see what you had on each of these. When we refactored everything to be multi-chain first, we were doing it the whole time with the Snaps vision in mind. We're trying to make sure that you can go around the web and your friends can have their own new ledger or whatever. You could be camping, you spin up a Raspberry Pi with a test network and connect it, and it could be running. You came up with a new consensus protocol while you were camping. You literally could add it to your MetaMask, right? Would be like my ideal case. I don't know if it fully works offline yet, but that's where we're headed, right? So we want to be able to add anything. And so we pushed ourselves to make sure snaps would appear as organically in the interface as any token that we support as a first-class citizen. And we left that in the hands of developers for a while, and we were like, give us the feature requests. And you know what? I think devs are a little shy about being as hard on us as they ought to be. So we said, okay, let's make some of the first best snaps in the world, put them in by default. Yeah, but we're going to make sure it has all the polish and all the capabilities of contributing and integrating into the interface that they want. So we decided we'd do Solana. Just do a little Solana snap, see what that looks like. And there it is. It just looks like it's normal other stuff in the MetaMask interface. All your Solana blue chip tokens in one easy-to-review place. It feels completely natural. You can connect to Solana apps. It's just part of the wallet, and that's how you would want it to be if you add another chain. We didn't want to just be playing to the new kids on the block, though. We also thought, maybe pay some tribute to the roots over here. We've got a lot of ultrasound money in the Ethereum ecosystem. How about some really, really sound money? Yes, the soundest of them all, the OG, the one that brought us here, the one that taught us that we could have a public consensus without anybody's permission. What's it look like? Oh yeah, it's a network with just one coin. Well, go figure. Oh no, we'll get ordinals, we'll get the NFTs in there. Yeah, but there it is. It's right there in there. Now, this is a hot account, so please use it responsibly. Put in your daily spending Bitcoin or whatever. But here it is. It works with the swap and bridge, and so you have a browser integrated Bitcoin wallet. And that's enabled within the Snap system. And so you can add other blockchains in at runtime. Okay, now that's all cool. We've got this imaginary internet money. We're going around speculating on each other's stuff. Some of us do a good job of it, I suppose. But how's it connect to the real world? Okay, you got a DAO. You're supposed to, now they give you a budget. They say, hey, run this event. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll withdraw to my centralized exchange so I can withdraw to my bank account so that I can spend the money. And now I have as much in my bank account. Well, now I'm getting half a quarter of a percent interest. And if I don't pay off the credit card, I'll take fat fees or something. But that's fine, right? Or could we just break down those barriers a little bit more? And we've been working on MetaMask card. But now we've got it in physical form, and it's in the United States. And you can sign up for it today. That's right. Yeah, it's physical. It's got an orange back that I'm not going to show you because the number's on it. It's made of metal. It's not gold, but some kind of metal. Hopefully not poisonous. We'll find out. I think this is fantastic. We have wanted a debit card off-ramp for MetaMask as long as I remember. We considered it like closing the loop, right? It's closing the loop with reality. To be real, you need to be able to have people enter and leave, right? And it should be seamless. It's just part of life. It's like if you want to hold your crypto, if you want to be yield bearing here, or you want to be supporting that DAO there, keep your tokens, keep your worth where you want it, and then you just spend it as needed. So postponing that spending, reduce the sell pressure on each other, more kind of pro-social for the crypto scene. I think you can. It gives you 1% USDC on every transaction, and we're working on other kind of fun stuff it can do. And it's going to come to a lot more countries soon. Okay, so that sounds pretty good, right? I mean, we've got a multi-chain, not just multi-chain. We've got omni-chain. I believe we are the only wallet even aspiring to be an omni-chain wallet. And I know it can make us slower, but we're going to support every dang chain. And you get in, and then you can spend it into the real world. And we're abstracting gas, so you're not going to have those hurdles in your way. You can swap, you can bridge, it's all in one place. So there you go. That's a very, very complete story of what a pretty dang good wallet could be, right? Or is there one more part to this talk? Okay, so we're all excited about Pectra, right? What can smart accounts do for us, right? What do we want them to do? What would an ideal account let you do, right? I want my wallet to let me connect with things and seize opportunities with my peers in mutually beneficial ways. And I believe that most of us want to build things together and things that are mutually beneficial with each other. I think way, way, way most of us. But I believe there are, because of the presence of the very tiny minority of poison pills sprinkled in the water, we have to lock up, we have to be skeptical, we have to clench up and be guarded. So I want the tools that let me navigate that world of distrust when I know that it is full of kind, good-hearted, well-intentioned people, where we should be able to make deals and agreements and offers and build organizations and share in the prosperity of those. That's the type of line of thinking that kind of took me down this road. I was looking for ways to share the door access to a hackerspace or a tool shed or membership to a club or shares in an organization. So there's been a problem though. In Web3, we've got programmable money, but it's always somebody else's programmable money. You walk up to the door of a smart contract, it's got a bunch of buttons, and you have the choice of pushing those buttons. You don't really have a lot of agency other than to put money in and just kind of hope for the best. And when you do put money in, you're either just depositing it, and that's basically all you're able to do. It's kind of just you buy tokens or you put tokens in. But you lose a lot of nuance, and you can't express terms more granularly than the token contract. So the token lets you give an allowance, but it doesn't have an expiration. It doesn't have enforcement of responses or anything. So what if your account had code? What if your account had code that you could add to, and when you went around Web3, when you interacted with things, you could kind of introduce code to express your terms in a contract. We've spent a lot of time trying to guess what other people's contracts are doing. But what if we reimagined the Web3 interaction so that when you're interacting with a stranger, you're writing your half of the terms? Okay? So let me tell you how I think we can do that. All right? Let's imagine hypothetically what a really awesome wallet might let you do. We wish this was possible. Okay, so maybe I've got some cold funds. These are in a hardware wallet. Maybe these are in a multisig or a DAO. And first of all, I don't want to take funds out of that. I don't want to put them in a hot machine, but I am willing to grant a daily spending limit to my hot wallet. Okay, so I do that, and now my pocket money is good for what I need to spend on a daily basis. I gave myself a little leeway. I was like, that's, sometimes you treat yourself. Maybe it's not enough for you. But then now I've got that in my MetaMask. And even though it was cold now, it's just in my MetaMask. So then when I go along and I find a new DEX, it's a new DEX. You can't trust a new DEX, right? Well, I find it, and I'm actually able to, it asks for a permission, and it's able to actually claim a price to me. And rather than trust it, rather than guess what this DEX is doing, rather than formally verifying its code, when it asks for that price and claims that response, I give it a permission back that encodes my smart account's policy saying, yes, you can take that, but only if I get that. And so you have now written a half of the contract and you give it back to the site in the form of a permission. Yeah, and thank you. And then you've got some terms. You maybe set an expiration, or maybe that terms field is open-ended. Maybe it lets you write some terms in your own language. Maybe those are enforceable in court. Maybe an LLM can write you up the solidity real quick. I don't know. And hey, auto protection, what's that? Maybe that'll come into play. Okay, then you take that same account. You set a limit order. Okay, so that was a permission. These funds still haven't left your hardware wallet, your multi-sig, right? You just gave this site permission to buy if a certain price is met from your cold storage without having to take out your hardware wallet, right? Okay, now those funds are still in your wallet though, right? Because the price hasn't gone there yet. So then you go along and you learn about a new AI agent where it's supposedly going to buy in the case of a news thing, and you're like, all right, well I could put a little bit into that risk. Obviously there's risk. There's no risk, no reward though. So this one, it's by somebody I kind of trust. So I'm gonna give it my whole spending limit, because if it ever spends it, I want to see what happens, and then I can always revoke. So I give it my spending limit too. Maybe I add some more rules. I give this one an expiration date. And then I enable auto protection. Because, and by the way, notice none of these interactions had any gas, right? Because in our perfect world, we would never think about gas. Also, all of these confirmations had no latency. Because why should I have latency? I'm not even the one submitting this transaction. They are. So I should just be able to approve it instantly. Okay, so now let's imagine there was a hack of that AI agent. Okay, its funds start getting drained. There's blocks and blocks full of people getting robbed in real time. Fortunately, we had a threat intelligence team that was working diligently, and one of their bots, they've got their fingers on a lot of pulses, right? One of their bots noticed there's a big drainer, and they just added the account they're draining, they added that to our revoke list. And the second it hits the revoke list, everybody's permissions were revoked. And while one block did get robbed, our response time was as fast as we were able to transmit the signal to the chain, right? So in this world, not only do you grant permissions, and not only can you grant any permission, but even the ability to revoke permissions or policies, they can have their own permissions associated with them. There's his permissions all the way down, and they compose in ways that keep you much safer than is the norm today. Okay, well, maybe that doesn't have to be so far away. Pectra is coming, and we've got an opportunity to bring smart account logic to every single EOA. That's every single MetaMask user. If you've got a key account, you could do anything a smart account could do, but can we do everything I just showed in that story? I think with this stack, we absolutely can, okay? Yeah, here, this is a photo op. Thank you, Ethereum community, okay? Thank you for 7702. This, there was a lot of debate early on. Back when it was called 3074, can it be safe to let people grant basically full authority of their account to a smart account? And there was a lot of talk, can we trust wallet developers to assign a contract account worthy of that? And then there's talk, and eventually it came around that, well, actually taking that risk might be worth it for the security benefits we get from being able to assign to a contract. And also, actually batching and reducing gas is a real benefit of this too. But it came around. It's compatible with 4337, and so we're able to grant to a contract account. Now, some people, you might ask, are you going to grant these permissions to regular websites? I would say no. That's a terrible threat vector. You would have no idea what you were doing. You would be drained instantly. It would be dramatically irresponsible for us to allow the authorization method to be requested from lay users. Okay, but what we can do is we can use it to delegate to a permission, to a smart contract that then allows the user to issue open-ended dynamic permissions. So we use that high power rail that is too powerful to touch, and we use it to build in a safety mechanism, like a breaker box that the user's in control of. So 7710 is an interface. Any smart contract can interface. Any smart contract can implement this, and it lets them basically allow others to call redeem delegation on them. And it's basically something you want, that they want you to do on your behalf, along with a payload that authorizes them. So any contract can have any way of kind of proving that I'm cool with that. And so if you're a DAO, the proof might be a list of the signers and their signatures. But if you're a multi-sig, you might have a list of your keys signing. And if you're just an EOA, it might just be your signature. Okay, now 7715 request is a way for a website to then ask for those payloads from you. So if you've got a smart account, you're able to give out arbitrary permissions, but now you need a way to negotiate those with the real world. So we need a way to say, hey, this is what I need from you. And then we have a way for the user with their wallet to do the best counter negotiation they can. It's like, oh, only if this and this and this, right? And that's a new design space we're opening up. It's like we've always said MetaMask is a little bit like the lawyer in your pocket, or like, because it was aspirational. If we do our job right, we come to you with the deal, and then we help you like decide what to do, and hopefully with as much sophistication as possible. So then what the question is, what is the best contract account you could possibly make for granting these open-ended permissions? And we think we've made it with the MetaMask delegation toolkit, which we believe it's absolutely the best one in the EVM yet. And I think it's an open design space. I think we can make them private long-term. I think we can make them more scalable and compressible. I think we can take them to more chains. Right now, this is just on EVM chains. But as soon as Pectra goes live, we're going to be able to have these beautiful, so I think, they're the smartest accounts. And, before I get to that, I think that this is going to allow just such a dramatically improved user experience, because you're going to always understand what's being proposed to you. By the way, this works well offline. So this protocol, if adopted by hardware wallets, will allow those hardware wallets to enforce readability of things that they're doing, which is a real problem when front ends can get attacked, which they do. I'm not gonna, okay. So we've been exploring a lot of possible use cases for this thing, right? This delegation toolkit. And honestly, it's hard to explain. I come here, I've explained it so many times in so many ways. In Brussels, we described it as the best embedded wallet. I do think it's the best embedded wallet. I just explained to you how it's the best readable permission system with off-chain and all that. I do believe it's the best readable permission system in the EVM. We were like, just point this ray gun at some other use cases, see what it does. We started considering, could a cold wallet be hot? So if you had a cold wallet that it was itself controlling one of these smart accounts, what would it let you do? Because today you're always making a trade-off between cold funds or hot, or you are if you're taking security seriously. Anything that you're keeping on your computer is at risk if your computer gets hacked. So if you download a video conferencing software because some fake support agent told you to, you're going to get wrecked and you're going to lose all your funds, right? So you end up saying, okay, well, if you're being really careful, I'm not going to keep all my funds on my computer. I'm going to keep them in a hardware wallet. I'm going to keep them in cold storage. And now you can't do anything with those. Okay, so what if we took those and we said, what would be a sensible policy for that cold key to authorize for you to use it? And I gave an example earlier, a daily spending limit. Totally reasonable one. Some other things that are safe to do, you could allow calling, say, maybe the claim function on, other contracts. That might be safe. We believe we can make swapping. We can provide some guarantees to swaps, like swaps between some GNOME tokens on dexes that have a verified kind of price enforcement, like everyone's cleared at the same price, so that you don't get Oracle tax. And they can't withdraw tokens, but they can swap back to your own account. So you could actually perform swaps with your hotkey with some assurances that those can't leave your account. Now, there's still some slippage concerns and things like that, which is why we would want to make sure there's like price Oracle enforcements. But we're currently actively exploring like how much utility you could have. Another example would be being able to vote with some DAO tokens without being able to send them away, right? If somebody could, they could get your keys and vote bad one time or something, and then you notice and you'd revoke it. So now instead of losing all your tokens, you misvoted one time. Way better security story. Or if you're a multi-sig that finds yourself regularly withdrawing funds to keep your operations budget alive, every single time you pull together all your signers, you're at risk of being deceived, signing the wrong transaction, getting wrecked. If instead you signed your operations budget as a streaming permission, then you only have to sign that permission once. And now you never gather those keys again as long as your operations budget is consistent. And now you've each just got the budget that you have, you're able to spend it hot, you're able to grant it as permissions to websites with no gas. That's because our permission system at the delegation toolkit is multi-hop. So you get that message from the cold wallet, you're able to sign a second message to the hot wallet. You're not putting it on chain, they put it on chain when they use the permission. So that's pretty cool. I think there's some real potential for making things safer. Oh, and then once it's in your hot wallet, of course, the DAO gave you some funds. Then you could just like use your card in person, right? And like use your DAO funds in real time. I don't know. Like that's both safe, and that feels pretty good to me. And you could in your wallet switch between which account you're spending from on your card. Like this is gonna be kind of fun. Okay, so calling all builders. We've built this delegation toolkit. It's an excellent embedded account. It allows you to do a few things. So you can get subscriptions. So this is a great way to build yourself a sustainable business, right? If you're building something of value, get a subscription. Great. And then you can route those for your things. If you're subscribed to other stuff, you can just give them a subscription from your subscription. You can use this framework to create seamless onboarding. Because these delegations are off-chain, they're great for making invite links. And because you can bake terms into them, you can bake referral fees into those invite links. So no more like read this code off the podcast, literally like click my link. And so every single person who uses a platform that leverages this would be, what do you call like an influencer or whatever. It's like no more top 1% of social media users getting compensated for the positive influence they're having in their community. Like everyone should be compensated for making good recommendations to their community. And this is also great, I think, for bringing attention to good products. If you've got a friend who's got a startup, they built a new hardware wallet or a new little instrument or a funny kind of bike, they're having trouble getting customers. If they give you a price and you can add a referral fee, I think we can like just dynamically create fluid organizations with incentives to build positive sum dynamics, right? So I'd like to see a bit of that. And so yeah, that's another thing you could do. A cool side effect of this, the more we've been using this, the more we keep learning how it makes you reimagine smart contract development. Today, we were finding like 90% of some smart contract code is authorization code. We were like, we could re-implement the Ethereum attestation system in like 4 lines because it's just a registry, and the rest of its code is like policy for when to let other people make claims on your behalf. Our system lets every account share anything it can do with anyone else, so you can actually slap on a permission system onto contracts later. It makes contract development way easier. You can write just the very barest core of what you're trying to do in Solidity, and when you're doing that it's easier for AIs to do it too. Although AIs tend to slip back to the old patterns, so we're working on getting them to like really understand the implications of this. But we do have a nice VS Code file in the delegation toolkit repo if you want to check it out. It's also great for revocation. I showed how you could subscribe to revocation services, and we could do mass revocations to protect lots of people at once. It's also great for enabling you to revoke anything at any time. No more subscriptions that are hard to cancel, right? Like, you're always in control of all the permissions you have. So a popular way that people measure the success of DeFi mechanisms, like this one, might be total value locked. Well, since delegations don't actually lock your funds, instead we might choose to measure it in total value unlocked. I want the biggest applause of the night for that one. I joke. But seriously, like when you grant a permission for a limit order here, and then you take the same money and give an AI agent permission to use it, and then that AI agent maybe spins up 4 other agents with limited subsets of that permission. I don't know, like what do you call it when more things have the ability to act on your behalf? What do you call that? It's not locked. It's empowered. It's superpowered. I would wager that it's something. It's similar to leverage because the more you spread it, the more risks you're taking, right? But if you keep those risks sound, you're enabling more. I need language around that. Unlocked, maybe perhaps. An example of something like that would be a limit order, right? If something, a limit order is something that it's a transaction you might only do under some conditions. Those things don't have to be on chain. You don't have to have a chain optimized for limit orders to fill up the space. Anything that's kind of just like maybe if, that stuff can be off chain. That can just be a delegation. You can encode policy. So we talk a lot about transaction throughput of blockchains, but we don't talk a lot about transaction reduction from the development patterns we're adopting. So if you can create infinite permissions for opportunity, but only the one that seizes that opportunity as a transaction, how much scalability do we get? I think it's proportional to like how much we're extending the opportunity to the search. It's good for search-shaped things, I think. Oh yeah, and of course, the obligatory AI agents. I already described how this could happen. Everybody's trying to figure out how to make AI agents do stuff with crypto, and it always looks like giving it a private key with a wallet and then asking it to do stuff. And with tools, you can make it do stuff. It's pretty cool. Now, with the caveat that you have to put funds into it, and every fund you put into it is now locked, right? It's locked in, and now it has that budget, and you're like, well, I hope that agent goes. And then you have like these public pools where people are betting on agents. Who's the best agent? Well, maybe you could just authorize a few agents. You wouldn't have to bet on them all. You could just be like, all right, agents, show me what you can do for me, right? Like, let's just let 1,000 flowers bloom as long as you're not, getting right. And as long as you're good at revoking as soon as an agent is bad, right? Then you might not lose so much. You might experiment more. You might learn faster. So that's a small, humble gift to the AI agent community. So thanks for coming. Let's box and build.